Okay, hey everyone. I just wanted to talk to you guys today about outboard engines in a little bit more detail. And people out there, I guess, ask the question and make statements like, "What is the best outboard brand in the world?" and stuff like that. And I guess I want to talk to you about each of the major brands on the market at the moment and my honest experience with them. And first of all, I just want to say that there is effectively no such thing as the best outboard in the world. That is a complete false statement. So when it comes to selecting an outboard, you really need to be selecting the particular outboard brand and horsepower for your application. So it's not as simple as making a blanket statement like a certain brand is the absolute best. Because the reality is, many of these outboard manufacturers, their different horsepower ranges are going through different refresh cycles, okay, at any one time. So one line might be refreshing their mid horsepower range or their upper horsepower range, while the lower horsepower range is actually lagging behind, etc. So no outboard manufacturer at any given time seems to have absolute peak of the market share, market leading outboards. It just basically doesn't happen. So what I'm going to do is talk through Honda, Yamaha, Mercury, Suzuki, each of the brands, where I think they're going in the right direction, where I think they need to pick up their game, and also just tell you about what I think each of those brands' kind of sweet spot in the market is. All right, going to get started with Honda. Okay, so we've had a few Hondas over the last couple of years. Now, Honda outboards, many of you may not know, is that a lot of them are basically repurposing car engines. Like, quite literally, they are car engines, the Honda car engines that have been, re-engineered to be put into basically outboards for marine purposes. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but what I would say about Honda is that in the market, there's been very little kind of innovation for an extremely long time. A lot of the Honda outboards have been out for a very, very long time, and they haven't had major changes to them. Now, the other thing to look out for Honda is their weight, okay? So in the different horsepower ranges, Honda can make some outboards which are competitive with the other manufacturers as far as not being too heavy, but in several of the horsepower ranges, they make extremely heavy outboards. And look, the bottom line is, I've never met a boat, never met a boat, of course I haven't. I've never seen a boat that actually does well with excessive weight on the transom as far as trailer boats go. Like, period, guys. You want the absolute minimum weight you can put on the back of your boat for maximum torque, performance, etc. So we have a look at the Hondas just from a weight perspective. Let's have a look at this is the BF 150. Okay, a dry weight of 221 kilograms. Now, I wouldn't call it a lightweight, but it's not excessive for a 150 horsepower four-stroke. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this outboard in a little bit more detail in a second. Now, if we go up to the 175, so literally just 25 horsepower more, we're going up to a 285 kilogram engine. That is extremely heavy for a 175 horsepower. And that weight is basically carried through all the way through the 200, 225, 250. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you're looking for a 175 to a 250 horsepower, the Hondas are excessively heavy in that horsepower range. The sweet spot, in my opinion, is the BF 150. Now, we have actually owned a few of these, and what I'd like to tell you about it is that the Hondas actually are, for all of what I've just said, they actually are quite a surprising engine. High points. Okay, I would have to rate the Honda as the second smoothest and quietest engine money can buy, and that's no joke. They are seriously quiet and seriously smooth. Like, it's quite amazing. Second thing going for the Hondas, especially that BF150. While they have reasonable torque and hole shot, it's not excessive. It's good. It's not amazing. What they do have that is amazing is effectively the VTEC models. The top end that they have is actually incredible. So if you've ever owned a Honda car with a VTEC engine, it's something to do with the cam, etc. These things, when the VTEC kicks in, they just rev and they just keep revving, and it is actually crazy. They pull so hard through the mid-range and the top end. And we had two of these BF150s, one on a 6-meter Haynes, one on a 6-meter Allison. And in both of them, we're kind of like, so 150 horsepower, 6-meter boat, 900 kilo-ish hull weight. You know, accelerating, oh yeah, it takes off pretty well, that's commendable. 70 kilometers an hour, wow, that's great. 75, keeps pulling. 80, keeps pulling. 85 kilometers an hour. Okay, top speed on both of those boats with BF150s. They just absolutely kept pulling, like unbelievable top speed for a 150 on that type of boat, like a deep V fiberglass fishing boat, half cabins. So what a lot of people do with the Hondas, they don't have outstanding hole shot. It's good. A lot of people will go and put like a Solus 4-blade prop on them to really get them out of the hole fast. And because they have that VTEC kicking in at the top end, they do have, I would say, very, very impressive performance. So all weight aside, Hondas are an impressive engine, and they're one of my favorite engines. Just be careful about which one you buy. Those higher horsepower models are extremely heavy, like I said. The only other downfall with Honda is maximum horsepower 250, their flagship model. That's not going to cut it. And I see a lot of boat manufacturers that are obviously sponsored by Honda. A lot of Surtees boats, etc. out there, like a 750 Game Fishers, which, you know, can take quite a bit of horsepower. Putting 250s on them, to me, that's just an underpowered boat, and that's not the ideal match for it. So would love to see a Honda engine bigger than a 250. Would also love to see Honda effectively redevelop their outboards to bring down the weight, because yeah, the weight in the 175 to 250 horsepower class is just far too much. So in summary, Honda's been around for a long time. They now have a great 7-year warranty, which is excellent. They're exceptionally smooth, exceptionally quiet. Top end is quite amazing out of these outboards. Really amazing. But look, if they want to stay current, they really need to bring the weight down. They need to innovate a bit more. Love to see something bigger than a 300. But yeah, I don't mind the old Hondas, put it that way. Okay, the next outboard I want to talk to you guys about, the next brand I should say, is Yamaha. Okay, so I think, you know, we all know that Yamaha are incredibly reliable 4-stroke engines, and they've been around, you know, they've been around for a very, very long time, and they are known for their reliability. Okay, so the thing I like about Yamaha is they're constantly refining their product. There's always new ranges coming out. There's always new technology. They're not kind of like Honda that just seems to really sit back and, if I'm being honest, do the bare minimum to, you know, innovate their outboards and keep moving forward. So there always seems to be a new Yamaha product coming out, and you know, it's true, they have built a reputation on arguably being the world's most reliable outboard motors. Okay, so, but it's like anything, you know, some of them, like any of the other brands, some of them might be a little bit heavy in different horsepower ranges, etc. You know, they don't have obviously the biggest displacement in the market in their upper horsepower ranges. So a lot of them are V6, where other competitors are now selling V8s. But look, Yamaha's extremely quiet, extremely reliable. In Australia here, a lot of the commercial operators, in fact the majority that I see and know of, run Yamahas. I would say only second, in a close second, would be Suzuki. So most commercial operators in Australia run Suzukis and Yamahas. Now, one of my favorite Yamaha engines is the lightweight 4-cylinder engine, okay, which I think off memory is offered in the 150, the 175, and the 200 horsepower range. So these things are a fairly decent displacement, close to 2.8 litres displacement, inline 4-cylinder engine. There we are, 2.8. And look, the performance of these things is absolutely fantastic. They are lightweight. It's somewhere around 220 kilograms. Just have a look. Yeah, 221. So these would have to be probably my favorite Yamaha engine. I also really do like the higher horsepower V6 range engines. But look, I guess when it comes to Yamaha, the only thing I would say about them is that they are very pricey. Okay, they always have been. And it's no different with the latest range of theirs. So the brand new, basically redesigned models at the moment that have come out, this particular line here, so they've called it the next generation here, from 225 through to 300. They've got a newly designed cowling and all sorts of other things. They are excessively expensive, okay, to get one of these engines in a digital throttle and shift. They are so expensive that if you go get a quote, you're going to be going, holy crap, it's time to start looking at a Suzuki. I would say, like, that's pretty much what I do. Every time I buy a boat, I go, you know what? Yamaha is my absolute pick. I go and get a price of one of these things, and if you want the latest Yamaha, not a kind of old range, the price will kind of shock you. So the price has always been a factor for me on Yamaha. So, yeah, like, I love them. I'd love to love them more. I'd love to own one. But every time I do the value for money test, the Yamaha just doesn't seem to honestly stack up. So, yeah, if you can afford a Yamaha and you want to spend the money on a Yamaha, definitely more power to you. These things are amazingly good quality. They last forever. Like I've said this before, I've got friends putting these on their commercial boats. They are getting thousands of hours literally before rebuilds, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 hours sometimes before either rebuilds or replacement, and that's a lot of hours. The other thing I would say is, you know, if we're talking importantly here about resale value, which I often do, I would have to say a Yamaha on the back of your boat will have the highest resale value out of any other outboard. Okay, second I would probably say Suzuki there, then maybe Honda, and maybe fourth Mercury. So it's Mercury to me has the lowest resale value out of all of those mentioned. Warranty a little bit disappointing here, 2 + 2 year warranty. Okay, other manufacturers are now offering 5, 6, and 7 year warranty, with Honda offering the 7 years, kind of the market leader. So that warranty is a little bit disappointing. Previously they offered a 3-year warranty, so I think Yamaha could definitely up their warranty. But anyway, look, what can I say? Brilliant engine. I don't actually have anything bad to say about a Yamaha. While some of their outboards may not be the lightest in their class, I actually don't think any of them are overly heavy, okay, for their weight class. So you don't need to worry too much about weight with the Yamahas. Okay, next up I want to talk about the Mercuries, the new Mercuries. Well, they're not so new anymore, but look, I've got to say this latest release of Mercuries, the new V6s and the new V8s, have been quite revolutionary compared to anything that's happened for a while in the 4-stroke sector. So you guys will have all seen them. Between the 175 and 300 horsepower range, you've got large displacement engines, basically, with the 175 through to 225, a 3.4 litre V6, and the 250 and above 4.6 litre V8s. Now, These things are incredibly smooth. They have a whole lot of torque and hole shot. So here's a few stats off their page here. And look, just on this matter though, I will say that you need to be very careful looking at any manufacturer's web page and their claims, because the bottom line is any single brand that I'm talking about can put their engine on a boat with their propeller, and in a particular use case, it will outperform any other engine on the market. So, and that's just the truth. So I don't believe any of these sort of things, to be perfectly honest. I look at it and I take it with a bit of a grain of salt. But look, the bottom line is the V8 four-strokes certainly do have a whole heap of grunt. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So look, as far as these new ones concerned as well, I've got to say they are really cost effective. So at the moment, Mercury would have to have the most cost effective four-stroke range on the market. And let's face it, if we're talking about, you know, what's the best of the best and who makes the best outboard, etc., well, a lot of the time it's irrelevant, because not many of us are going out and buying 350, 400 horsepower outboards. Let's face it, most of us are buying in the lower to mid-range classes, you know, between the 75, 115 up to 200 horsepower range. So that's the sort of range most of us are buying in. Now you've also got the new Verados. Verados have always been absolutely beautiful engines, and when I said the Honda was the second quietest and smoothest engine in my opinion, and a lot of you may find that surprising because they are a bit old school, the Verado is basically number one. The lack of vibration and how quiet these things are just absolutely ridiculous. However, the new Verados, because of the newly designed midsection, they are very heavy. So just something to be aware of if you want to carry that extra weight. And they are expensive. So the Verados are definitely not cheap. While the typical four-strokes are pretty good value, the Verados are definitely quite expensive. So look, I certainly don't mind these Mercuries. They've got a good warranty as well. I can't find it here off memory. It was a 5 or a 6 year warranty, so that's good. That's quite acceptable. But yeah, pretty nice engines, I would say. I probably wouldn't, to be perfectly honest, still wouldn't pick a Mercury over a Suzuki or a Yamaha, but I do admire this latest range, and reliability in the past of Mercury's has been questionable, and but to be honest, I haven't actually heard of any of this new range of outboards having reliability issues at all from all the people that I know that actually have them. In fact, I've only actually heard good things said about them. One thing that is a little bit interesting about this new range are basically the Pro XS models. These are obviously aimed at high sort of speed, high output, performance type stuff. And the reason that I find them interesting is that these Pro XS models actually have effectively a noisier exhaust. So especially the V8s, they sound like a V8. And you can hear them running, and they're quite noisy compared to the normal ones. And look, to me, that's not a thing. That's just not a thing that I want. That's not a thing that any fishing boat person that I know actually wants. Because, when you're out having, when you're doing long days offshore, trolling, etc., you want the quietest motor you can absolutely get. So I do get surprised to see guys putting the Pro XS engines on sort of offshore fishing boats that are going to be out there trolling all day and stuff like that. I definitely would not do that. These are more aimed at sort of go fast bass boats, estuary boats, soft plastics type boats where you just want absolute performance and you want it to sound grunty as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be putting a Pro XS on my boat, put it that way, for my sort of application. But and typical Pro XS in Pro XS fashion, a lot of these engines are apparently underrated as well regarding their actual horsepower output. So they apparently put out more horsepower than they actually say on the spec sheet. But anyway, look, the new Mercs are definitely a good thing. I have not heard, honestly, anything bad about them. They are the best value for money modern four-stroke available on the market at the moment, and they are a market leader on at the moment with having maximum horsepower and minimum weight. So the power to weight ratio on most of these Mercuries is close to market leading. So yeah, pretty cool. Need to check them out. Okay, lastly, I want to discuss with you guys Suzuki outboards. So, as you would have noticed, I at the moment have a Suzuki outboard myself. Now, Suzuki's actually just released a brand new outboard in the 140 horsepower range called the DF 140BG. Basically, they're claiming it's the world's first outboard in this 115 and 140 horsepower category that are actually drive-by-wire. So look, what I would say about the Suzuki outboards is that they are incredibly reliable. They're a very high quality outboard. When it comes to things like power to weight ratio, like all of the outboards, you do need to do your due diligence and check them out, but I would say none of them are overly, excessively heavy for their horsepower output. So warranty is excellent at now 6 years warranty. Look, Suzuki's, I've got to say, again, I don't want to make blanket statements here. You've got to be very specific about your own application, but when it came to my boat that I have at the moment, the Bar Crusher, I definitely checked the entire market in the 200 horsepower range, and it's the DF 200 AP, the four-cylinder that's stacked up as the best outboard for the boat. So one of the reasons that I like Suzuki as well is, as far as innovation goes, they actually have basically an offset drive shaft, which brings forward effectively most of the, or not most, but brings forward some of the weight onto your transom to help your boat carry the engine weight better, which also offers for, a very smooth on-water experience. Now, they have also Suzuki lean burn. Okay, now I've got to say this absolutely works. Lean burn, I'll let you guys look into what it actually is, but it's effectively technology to constantly evaluate and adjust fuel mixtures, etc. Across the outboard's operating range, and there is a massive improvement in fuel economy by having an engine with lean burn, like my engine does. And I've had actually a few people reach out to me. They've bought Suzukis in different horsepower ranges that didn't have lean burn, and they've basically been getting woeful fuel economy compared to the fuel economy that I'm getting. So for example, it says here in the fine text, comparing the new DF200A with the original V6 DF200 shows a 19% increase in fuel efficiency at cruising speed, and I'd absolutely have to concur with that. Fuel efficiency of my engine is absolutely fantastic. The DF200A four-cylinder is also a 2.8 litre inline four, so it's quite a large displacement engine for a 200 four-cylinder. Now, Suzuki's also have like an O2 sensor feedback system, which allows it to constantly, monitor and adjust full fuel air ratios. They have a higher compression and something here about the largest displacement in its class, which I think, Yamaha has got the 2.8 for as well. So, look, they've got a bunch of things here on the web page, but look, the bottom line is the Suzuki, I've got to say, it does have a lot of torque for the size engine it is. They also have a reduction gear ratio, which allows them to spin a bigger prop. Now, what does that actually mean in the real world? Well, if you haven't checked out my recent video about upgrading my prop to a Solus 4-blade, let me summarize it. Okay, with the standard Suzuki 3-blade prop, in a whole shot test from 0 to 20 knots, my best time was about 7.5 seconds. Okay, and it had a top speed of 67 kilometers per hour. Now, after going to the correct 4-blade prop, I knocked off a second off that whole shot, plus increased my top speed up to 73 kilometers an hour. So that's actually quite amazing if you think about it. It tells you that that engine actually had enough torque to spin effectively a prop that has more grip in the water, that can get the boat out of the hole faster and continue powering it right up to a higher top speed. So the reduction gear ratio in the Suzukis, it genuinely does work. And if you get the right prop on these things, they can absolutely fly. Like, my boat has a serious amount of torque, whole shot, and top speed now for what it is. You know, a hard top with a lot of wind resistance with a big glass windscreen and stuff. So look, no surprise here that I do love Suzuki engines. I think they are fantastic engines. Another interesting outboard in their range is the 300 and the 325 and the 350B series. What's cool about these things is they basically have two props on them which counter rotate. Okay, so give incredible grip in the water and control for your boat. Great whole shot. Yeah, these engines, I must admit, are really, really cool. They've been around for a little while now. They are heavy, okay, for their horsepower. That's one thing to be aware of, but I think having that that dual prop system would more than basically compensate for that. The only downside of these B series engines are, honestly, they are very expensive. So I've looked at them a few times, and I've looked at them for my next boat, and you kind of go, wow, can you justify the money as much as I'd love to have one? So look, Suzuki, I've got to say, they are probably my favorite outboard on the market, and it's not because I believe they're the absolute best in every single horsepower category. It's more that they are very innovative. They are close to, market leaders in many horsepower categories. Very fuel efficient, very quiet, but most of all, they're actually fantastic value. So the Suzukis are a lot better value, I can tell you, than like a Yamaha. They're definitely, pretty close to around a Honda, but the Honda's a bit old school. I don't think they are a genuine competitor with the Suzuki. The Mercs are cool, but and are much more affordable than the Suzuki. But the Suzuki, to me, is a long-term proven performer. And look, when it comes to resale value as well, I would say if you've got a Yamaha or a Suzuki on your boat, you're going to get maximum resale value for your boat. With a Merc, you're not going to get that. So look, that's basically it, guys. I just want to summarize here to say, there is straight up no such thing as the best outboard manufacturer in the world. Like I said, all of them are going through different upgrade cycles. For example, the Mercs from 150 horsepower down still look very old school. They look like they're 5 or 10 years old, so they need to refresh those. Same with all the other manufacturers. Suzuki's got this new 140 here. They're always upgrading and one-upping each other, and it really depends on your exact boat, your exact application. But I would always be looking for a quality brand, something like a Suzuki or a Yamaha if you can afford it. Then I'd be looking at Merc next. Honda's probably last, okay, just because of the weight factor and the fact that they're not keeping up with the market in many ways. But I don't think you can really go wrong with any of them. In summarizing, they're all pretty damn good these days. So yeah, I hope you guys found that interesting and enjoyable. Most people are buying horsepower, between 75 to the 200 range for the sort of boats that I'm running. But anyway, all right, thanks guys. I'll chat to you shortly.